We could all live like billionaires with robotic servants. I call it billionaire roboticism. Every one of us, the poor, the homeless, the middle class, kids, senior citizens, adults, we could all have robotic servants doing all the work for us. Every one of us could live like billionaires with robotic servants. We're going to talk about billionaires. We're going to talk about robots. We're all going to live in extreme wealth with robotic servants. Now, in addition to talking about billionaires, and since my political movement, the We Like Women Pride Army, is in the United States and Canada and Australia and the UK. And here's another map. It's in the US, Canada, Australia, and Europe, the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. Not only are we going to talk about billionaires, we're going to talk about a billionaire in every one of those countries, US, Canada, Australia, and Europe. We're also going to talk really briefly about, since billionaires were wealthy, kings and queens were wealthy, so we're going to have a brief portrayal of a king and or queen in Europe. And in the United States, Native American leaders would probably be the wealthiest people. So we're going to have a brief interval of a brief portrayal of a Native American leader, and a brief portrayal of a First Nations chief or First Nations leaders, and a brief portrayal of Indigenous Australian Aborigines. So again, it's not just billionaires, but also Native Americans and billionaires in the US, billionaires and First Nations of Canada, billionaires and the Australian Aborigines of Australia, and billionaires and the kings and queens of Europe. In cultures before, some very wealthy kings and queens have almost been worshipped as gods and leaders. And in many ways, the billionaires are the gods of our times. And so we want to compare the billionaires to the kings and queens and the Native American chiefs, First Nation chiefs, and the Australian Aborigines of the past. And remember, only through robots can we all live like billionaires. Let's live like billionaires with robotic servants. Only through robots can we all live like billionaires. We could all have robotic servants and we could all live like billionaires. The robots can do all of the work for us. Just as billionaires have servants, we could all have robotic servants. Robot, give me food. The robot will get us food whenever we want. Robot, take me here, take me there. We could even have flying robots flying us everywhere. So we could have robotic chauffeurs and robots taking us anywhere we want. The robot, be my doctor. The robot will heal us whatever we want. Robot, build me a house. The robot will build us a house or move things around the house or move things for us whenever we want. We could just relax and just have robots do this for us, do that for us, cook for us, whatever we want. We're all going to have the lifestyles of billionaires with robotic servants. The robot I'm going to talk about in this episode is Atlas. This robot is called Atlas the robot. And for the United States, we're going to create the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. For the United States, the billionaire I'm going to talk about is billionaire Larry Page. Larry Page is one of the founders of Google, a very successful billionaire. The Native American king or queen, I'm going to talk about Queen Aliquippa. Queen Aliquippa, she was of the Mingo Seneca tribe. There's a picture of Queen Aliquippa. And as for Canada, I'm going to talk about the billionaire David Thomson. He's Reuters, the big news corporation. He's the head of Reuters. And for the Canadian First Nations, I'm going to talk about Big Bear, that Mistasi Mashka of the Cree, Chief Mistahi Maska. This is a picture of him, 1885. His name's Big Bear. And as for Australia, I'm going to talk about billionaire Scott Farquhar. There's a picture, a Sydney Morning Herald picture of billionaire Scott Farquhar. This guy founded Aethelstan, and this is in the Sydney Morning Herald, and that's his co-founder right there. But that's a picture of Scott Farquhar, and this is for a Sydney Morning Herald public picture. And the Aborigine I want to talk about, his name is Gambu Ganuru, or Kambu Gunera. He was also known as Red Chief or Red Kangaroo. For the UK, I'm going to talk about billionaire James Dyson. He has a fantastic Dyson Corporation, billionaire James Dyson. And for the UK, I'm going to talk about King Aethelstan. He's one of the kings of the UK. Remember, we're all going to live like billionaires. We're all going to live like kings and queens with robotic servants. And as for Europe, we are going to become the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. I'm going to talk about billionaire Susanne Klatten. Billionaire Susanne Klatten. BMW is one of the companies. She has holdings in BMW. And for European king, I'm going to talk about King Lothair the First. Remember, I call this movement billionaire roboticism. We could all live like billionaires with robotic servants. Now, for the robot that I'm going to talk about, the robot is Atlas. And please remember, all these, everything in here is of my own opinion. The billionaires and robots in here have no official affiliation with my video. I just want to present, we're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. And all this information is public information on Wikipedia, Creative Commons, and most of it is from the news. Public information. And so let's talk about Atlas. Now, Atlas was made public in July 11th, 2013 by the company Boston Dynamics. And Boston Dynamics is a great company. They make a lot of great robots. I like Boston Dynamics. We're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. Boston Dynamics is going to be one of those companies that's going to help contribute to these robots so we can all live like billionaires. A humanoid robot, and it's been used in DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. That's a very good agency because they help to develop advanced robots. And yeah, we're all going to live like billionaires. So Boston Dynamics and DARPA are both organizations that we totally want to support because they're going to help us. They're going to help create these robots that do all the work for us so we can live like billionaires, or they're definitely going to help in the advancement of robotics. There's a picture of Atlas right here. You can see here it was derived from Petman. So let's see what Petman's about. Petman is Protection Ensemble Test Mannequin. It's a bipedal device constructed for testing chemical protection suits. So yeah, this is really cool. Okay, so the design and production of Atlas was overseen by NYPD, NYPD, an agency of the United States Department of Defense, in cooperation with Boston Dynamics. Look, this is really cool. One of the robot's hands was developed by Sandia National Laboratories, while the other was developed by iRobot. iRobot, that's another cool company that makes robots. And we're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. iRobot hopefully will be a company that contributes to that. Atlas is really cool. It can navigate through rough terrain and climb independently. It's got a laser rangefinder, stereo cameras, and yeah. So in 2016, Boston Dynamics released a new version of Atlas, which is much more advanced. It's more advanced to navigate through obstacles and assess the terrain and manipulate objects. And, we're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. We need robots like this. Robot, give me food. Robot, take me here and there. Robot, build me a house. Robot, move things around for me, heavy objects, whatever. So, yeah, we got to live like billionaires with robotic servants, and hopefully Atlas will be much more advanced, or new robots that come out there that are inspired by Atlas. Let's do whatever it takes to live like billionaires with robotic servants. And Atlas is getting more advanced. There's, in 2018, there was one that could run around, jump over boxes. In 2019, one that could do somersaults, handstands, and rotations. So yeah, man, let's live like billionaires with robotic servants. There's a picture of Atlas connecting a hose or doing something like that. That would be, we're gonna live like billionaires. A robot doing all the plumbing and fixing things around the house for us. That'll be cool. Atlas getting into a car for us, robots driving us around or picking things up for us. That'll be cool. That's another way we could all live like billionaires with robotic servants. In 2013, this is a cool New York Times thing about Atlas. A striking example of how computers are beginning to grow legs and move around in the physical world, describing this robot as a giant, though shaky, step toward the long-anticipated age of humanoid robots. And I call it billionaire roboticism. We're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. Okay, now we're going to create the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. And for the United States, the billionaire we're going to talk about is Larry Page. Larry Page found Google. He was born in 1973, a computer scientist. He is best known as one of the co-founders of Google, along with Sergey Brin. He was born in Lansing, Michigan. He went to the University of Michigan and Stanford University. guy's extremely wealthy. They say this is a 2020 estimate. His net worth is worth around 48 billion. Now I just got this from Wikipedia. I know that the net worth of billionaires changes daily, so this is just from the Wikipedia website for 2020. Now, Page was the chief executive officer of Alphabet until stepping down on December 3rd, 2019. After stepping aside as Google CEO in 2001 in favor of Eric Schmidt, he reassumed the role in 2011. Now, on December 2019, Page stepped down again, and both Page and Sergey Brin remain at Alphabet as co-founders, board members, employees, and controlling shareholders. Now, Forbes placed him 10th on the list of billionaires in 2019, and in March 2020, he was the 11th richest person in the world with a net worth of $53.6 billion at that time. Now, during an interview, Page recalled in childhood noting that his house was usually a mess with computers, science, and technology magazines and popular science magazines all over the place. So, I remember spending a huge amount of time poring over books and magazines, according to this writer, and it fostered creativity and invention. Page was first attracted to computers when he was just 6 years old. He says, I became really interested in technology and business. Probably from when I was 12, I knew I was going to start a company eventually. Kind of cool. Look at this. Page created an inkjet printer made of Lego bricks. So Page, along with Brin, they made this research paper. It was basically about search engines on the internet. The anatomy of a large-scale hypertextual web search engine. So they were working on this thing, and this PageRank algorithm, and he realized that they could build a search engine far superior to the existing ones. So they used Page's, a college dormitory room as a machine laboratory. And they were getting like spare parts from inexpensive computers, and they created a device that they could connect to the search engine with Stanford's broadband campus network. So in 1998, Brin and Page incorporated Google. The pair's mission was to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Another smart move. Page, he's a visionary. Look at this. He led the acquisition of Android for $50 million in 2005. And that Android is now, the world's most popular mobile operating system. So that was a really smart move for Page. That brought in billions of more dollars to Google. I mean, I know both of the phones I use right now use Android. I know every single cell phone I got has been an Android phone. I've never have gotten a phone that's not an Android phone. That's what I know for. Well, I got a Microsoft one once, but it's all Android. I just cell phone, everything's Android. In an interview in January 2013, Page said, this is interesting, he has a 10x mentality. Google employees are expected to create products and services that are at least 10 times better than those of its competitors. In the introductory blurb, Astro Teller, the head of Google X, explained to Levy that 10x is just, so that's really cool, you know what I mean? The focus is on where the next 10x will come. So everything's just got to be 10 times better than those other competitors. That's the attitude that he has, which is a very good attitude because, look at how successful Google is. I believe even, these videos, I put this on, these YouTube videos are all from, I think Google owns that company, YouTube. And they own Android too. Yeah. That's Larry Page, a billionaire. Now, billionaires live in extreme wealth, and every one of us is going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. That is our goal. So we're all going to live like billionaires. We're going to have the lifestyle of billionaires. Like this guy's so wealthy. Food, housing, whatever he wants, whenever he wants. You travel anywhere. Every one of us with robotic servants are going to live like billionaires like Larry Page. Now, a Native American leader is Queen Aliquippa. She died in December 23rd, 1754. She was a leader of the Seneca tribe of American Indians during the early 18th part of the 18th century. And this is a really cool picture of George Washington. They visit Queen Aliquippa in 1753. That's a really neat historical picture. The Mingo Seneca tribe. Again, so we're all going to live like billionaires, and she's a queen, and so we want a society where every one of us lives like billionaires and lives like kings and queens, and she's like a Native American chieftain, so she's like a queen of the Native Americans, and they usually have more wealth than everyone. And again, our goal through this series is every one of us is going to have tremendous wealth through robots. So she's a very wealthy Native American. She was the leader of a band of Domingo Seneca living along 3 rivers, the Ohio River, the Allegheny River, and the Monongahela River near what is now Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, George Washington wrote of his visit to Aliquippa in December 1753. As we intended to take horse here at Fraser's cabin in the mouth of Turtle Creek, and it required some time to find them, I went up about 3 miles to the mouth of the Yogoni to visit Queen Aliquippa, who had expressed great concern that we passed her in going to Fort LeBeuf. I made her a present of match coat and a bottle of rum, which latter was thought much the better present of the two. So the bottle of rum was thought to be the better present, which was kind of cool, Now, Queen Aliquippa was a key ally of the British. Queen Aliquippa was a key ally of the British during the French and Indian War. Now, the city of Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, was named in her honor by the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie Railroad. And there, as you can see on the map, that's where the city of Aliquippa is. It's in Beaver Creek, Beaver County, in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. And there's a picture of the city, Franklin Avenue downtown in Aliquippa, named in her honor. And now we're going to talk about Canada. Remember, the U.S., Canada, Europe, and Australia are going to be one country. And for Canada, billionaire we're going to talk about is David Thomson. Now, David Thomson, this is a Forbes picture of David right there. That's his picture in Forbes magazine. David Thomson, David Kenneth Roy Thomson, 3rd Baron Thomson of Fleet. He inherited his father's British title, Baron Thomson of Fleet, and he became chairman of the merged entity Thomson Reuters. That's a very big news organization. As of 2019, Thomson is listed as the wealthiest person in Canada with an estimated net worth of $37.8 billion. And remember, now these things change all the time. They change daily. They even have like a daily billionaire indexes and stuff out there where how much their fortunes change. Now, he studied history at Selwyn College, Cambridge, and he attended both Upper Canada College and the Hall School. He had a very successful business career. He got into the family business and extremely successful, a contribution to the business. He's a very big art collector. He likes to collect lots and lots of art. This is one of the artworks that he's bought. It's by Peter Paul Rubens. It's known as Massacre of the Innocents. It's a classic. It's the years 1611 and 1612. That's one of the ones that he bought. This is really cool. He's the father of 6 children from 4 different mothers. So that's kind of cool, 6 kids. Right here, Thomson has rarely given interviews to the press and maintains a low public profile. He lives in Toronto, Ontario. And Thomson Reuters is a very successful news media information company. Extremely successful. Now, as for the First Nations, we're going to talk about Big Bear, Mistahi Maskwa, a Cree headman. There he is, Chief Mistahi Maskwa, or known as Big Bear. There's a picture of him right there. Now, this guy was born in 1825 in Jackfish, Saskatchewan, and he died in January 17, 1888 at the Poundmaker Indian Reserve, Cut Knife, Saskatchewan, Canada. His father's name was known as Black Powder. His mother's name was known as Delaney. Now, this is interesting. Look at this. Upon his reflection, Big Bear was visited by many spirits, but the bear took great prominence in his mind. After this reflection, he created a fur necklace in the shape of a bear paw with 5 ivory claws hanging from it, which he called the chief's son's hand. The necklace was the source of his nickname Maskwa, meaning bear, and Mistahi, meaning much. That's how he got his name, Big Bear. The necklace was the source of his nickname, Big Bear. Big Bear had several wives. He produced at least 4 male children, and one of his kids found the Montana First Nations Reserve in Alberta and a Rocky Boy Reservation in Montana. Upon the death of his father, Black Powder, in the winter of 1864, his band with over 100 members was in need of a chief. Big Bear was 40 years old, and he was the choice. Now here's a picture of Big Bear trading at Fort Pitt in 1884. Look at some of the natives from left to right. Four Sky Thunder. I like these First Nation names. They're really cool names, very The names of these chiefs are really cool. Like, very majestic. Four Sky Thunder, Skybird, Matus, Napasis, Big Bear. So that there's Big Bear right there. And Angus McKay, Otto Different, Louis Gully, Stanley Simpson, Mr. Raleigh. Yeah, this is at training at Fort Pitt in 1884. Remember, we all want to live like billionaires with robotic servants, and kings and queens and Native American chiefs and First Nation chiefs are the symbols of the wealth, of our country, and so in addition, so every First Nation should live like a billionaire, and everyone in Canada and everybody in the U.S., Europe, and Australia, we should all live like billionaires with robotic servants. So this is Big Bear. Of course, we're going to create the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. And as for Australia, we're going to talk about the billionaire Scott Farquhar. Scott Farquhar is the CEO of Atlassian. Scott is the co-founder and co-CEO of the software company Atlassian. He was born in December 1979. He went to James Roos Agricultural High School. He went to the University of New South Wales. His net worth, according to this Wikipedia, was around $8.5 billion. And remember, these net worths change daily. So that was from the Wikipedia article, the latest one on Scott Farquhar. With Cannon Brooks, they found Atlassian. It's a collaboration software company, and I'm not even 100% sure what that means, with more than 51,000 large and small organizations as customers, including media, manufacturing, and technology. Okay, they use Atlassian's tracking, collaboration, communication, service management, and development products. He's also a professor at the University of New South Wales School of Computer Science and Engineering. This is interesting. Farquhar often carries the epithet of accidental billionaire after he and his business partner, Mike Cannon Brooks, founded Atlassian with the aim to replicate a $48,000 Australian dollar graduate starting salary typical of corporations without having to work for someone else. So whatever that means, they call him an accidental billionaire. Well, this accidental billionaire is doing well. He married a lady named Kim Jackson. They have 3 kids. They got a very expensive house, $75 million. And his partner, Mike Cannon Brooks, bought the house next door, which is Australia's most expensive house, at around $100 million. Well, this accidental billionaire is doing really well. As of 2019, Scott is ranked 5th in the Forbes Australia 50 richest people with revenue of $7.5 billion. And remember, we could all live like billionaires with robotic servants. As for our Australian Aboriginal chief, remember, we want everyone to live like billionaires. every Australian Aborigine is going to live like a billionaire. Every white Australian is going to live like a billionaire. We're all going to live like billionaires. Gambu Ganuru, or Kumbu Ganura, is also known as Red Chief or Red Kangaroo. He was a Kamilaroi, man. That's a Kamilaroi. That's an Aboriginal tribe who lived in an area of what is now the town of Gunnedah in northwest New South Wales in the 18th century. There's Gunnedah on the map of New South Wales. That's where it is. There's the city of Gunnedah. There's a picture right there. His tribe was a Kamilaroi tribe, also under the Kamilaroi. They're an indigenous Australian people, and they form one of the 4 largest indigenous nations in Australia. Now, he had a reputation as a warrior and as a wise leader of the Gunnedah tribe. This is really cool. This is a very interesting Aboriginal custom. Very interesting. I like Aborigines. This is, he was buried in the mid-18th century in a manner befitting a Kamilaroi man of great importance. He was in a sitting position, backed by a tree carved with totemic designs. So basically, he was buried. He was sitting in a tree with designs on the tree. And the stories of his bravery, achievements, and adventures were handed down through the generations, and his burial place was treated with great respect. In 1887, the town's doctor, they arranged for the remains of Gambu Ganero to be dug up, and also a slab of that tree, the Blackfellows tree, the tree with the art that he was buried in. So they all went to the Australian Museum. His remains in the tree. As custom demanded his silence, old Joe Bungaree, he was unwilling to talk about it, but just before he died, he confided in his friend J.P. Ewing, the local police sergeant. The sergeant's son Stan Ewing recorded this information and passed it on to other historians. Gambu Gunuru soon became recognized as a great Aboriginal leader, and his story appeared in the Sydney Mail in 1891. A book written about him and the Red Chief was published in 1953. It became a bestseller. In the 1960s, the Gunnedah Historical Society erected a sign to mark the burial site of the Red Chief. Now, this sign still stands today. In 1984, a sculpture, a big sculpture was erected here. It was opened on National Aborigines Day in 1984, the 14th of September, and it was officially dedicated. And here, this is the bronze relief on this site. This is the Aboriginal. This is the Aboriginal writing, and here's the American writing. Then this is really cool. In times past, there was an Aboriginal man called Kumbo Gunera. His people called him the Red Kangaroo. He was a clever chief and a mighty fighter. This man from Gunnedah. Later, the white people of this place called him the Red Chief. So this is a really cool, the Red Chief, a chief, that symbolizes a man of wealth. Like every Aborigine could live like a billionaire. Every white Australian could live like a billionaire. And everybody in our new European, American, Australian, Canadian Union could live like a billionaire. With robotic servants, billionaire roboticism. There is the UK, the United Kingdom, Great Britain and Ireland and Northern Ireland and Scotland and Wales, Australia, US and Canada. We're all going to be one country. And as for the UK, we're going to talk about billionaire James Dyson. And there is a picture of billionaire James Dyson. Now, James Dyson was born in 1947, a British inventor. He founded Dyson Ltd, and he's best known for the dual cyclone bagless vacuum cleaner. The Dyson vacuum cleaners. I see these things in Walmart. They're pretty common, Dyson, and they look really cool. They look, so I like Dyson vacuum. A lot of those Dyson vacuum cleaners, they're like very see-through. So yeah, Dyson vacuum. According to the Sydney Times. According to the Sunday Times Rich List, in 2018, his net worth is $13.9 billion. Now, this guy's he's on the Order of Merit, Knight Bachelor, Commander of the Order of the British Empire, Fellow of Royal Society, and Fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering. So he's got a lot of honors. This is an interesting story. When he was young, he excelled at long distance running. I was quite good at it, not because I was physically good, but because I had more determination. I learned determination from it. So long distance running was something that he gave him a lot of learning about determination. Some of the cool early inventions, he designed a sea truck. One of his first inventions was the ball barrel, a version of a wheelbarrow using a ball instead of a wheel. It was featured on BBC's Tomorrow's World. And a trolley ball, a trolley that would launch boats. And he also designed, that's pretty cool, this thing called a wheel boat. It could travel at speeds of 64 kilometers per hour on both land and water. There's a picture of a Dyson vacuum, the DC07 bagless Dyson vacuum. So Dyson, he made a fortune through the vacuum cleaner. His slogan was, "Say goodbye to the bag." So that marketing slogan really helped make him very successful. It became very successful all over the world. By saying goodbye to the bag, that means you don't have to buy a replacement vacuum bag, for your vacuum cleaner. In mid-2014, Dyson personally appeared his 360i robotic vacuum cleaner. So yeah, we're gonna live like billionaires with robotic servants. He's making a robotic vacuum cleaner. Dyson does not give up. This is an article in 2007. Dyson asserted that the importance of failure in one's life. I made 5,127 prototypes of my vacuum before I got it right. There were 5,126 failures. There's a picture of a Dyson Airblade hand dryer. There's another picture of Dyson in 2013 at Sydney. And yeah, we do want to create the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. So there he is in Australia. Dyson married a lady named Deirdre in 1968. They have 3 children. He has a boat. It's called the Nelling. It's the largest British flagged and owned super yacht. So we could all live like billionaires like Dyson, and we could all live like kings and queens with robotic servants. You know, kings had lots of wealth. You know, they had servants, and billionaires could have servants. So every one of us is going to live like billionaires with robotic servants and kings and queens. And we're going to talk about the British King Aethelstan really quick. There he is, Aethelstan. Aethelstan, or for Old English, Old Norse, it means noble stone. He was the king of the Anglo-Saxons from 924 to 927, king of the English from 927 to 913. He was the son of King Edward the Elder, and modern historians regard him as the first king of England and one of the greatest Anglo-Saxon kings. He never married and had no children, which is unusual. Kings usually have lots of kids. He was succeeded by his half-brother Edmund. In 927, he conquered the last remaining Viking kingdom, York, making him the first Anglo-Saxon ruler of the whole of England. His grandfather was Alfred the Great, and he did a lot of legal reforms and great things in the land. This is a really, really cute statue here. It shows him as a little boy. It's a statue in Tamworth of Aethelflaed, Lady of the Mercians, with her nephew Aethelstan. So that's Aethelstan as a little boy. This is a silver penny of King Aethelstan. That's a silver penny picture. And it says here, Aethelstan became the first king of all the Anglo-Saxon peoples and in effect overlord of Britain. So he's a very successful king, really successful in battles against everyone. Here's another picture. It's a 16th century painting. 16th century painting. A 16th century painting in Beverley Minster of Aethelstan with St. John of Beverley. There's another coin of Aethelstan's Rex. There's a picture of Aethelstan. This is in a 15th century stained glass window in the All Souls College Chapel in Oxford. I love the tombs of these kings and queens. They're very lifelike tombs. This is the empty 15th century tomb of King Aethelstan at the Malmesbury Abbey. The European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. Now let's go to Europe. The European billionaire we're going to talk about is Susanne Klatten. There's a picture of Susan right there. Okay, as of February 2020, her net worth was $21 billion, making her the richest woman in Germany and the 46th richest person in the world. She was born in April 1962. She's a German billionaire heiress, the daughter of Herbert and Johanna Quandt. Best known for her holdings in Altana and BMW. So those BMW cars, she's one of the holders of that. She owns a lot in BMW. She was born in Bad Homburg, Germany. She got a degree in business finance. She started to work for advertising companies, and she got courses in marketing and management at the University of Buckingham, and she specialized in advertising. She got her MBA from a business school in Lausanne. Upon her father's death, she inherited a 50.1% stake in the pharmaceutical and chemicals manufacturer Altana. Her father also left her a 12.5% stake in BMW, but following the death of her mother in 2015, her stake in BMW is now 19.2%. In 1978, there was an attempt to kidnap her, but the police prevented it from happening. They wanted to kidnap her and her mother, so the police, good job, cops. So the police did a good job in stopping that from happening. She got married in 1990. She has 3 children. They have 3 children. And she got separated in 2018. In 2007, she was awarded the Bavarian Order of Merit. That's like a cool award. This is interesting. In the year 2007, there was a blackmail attempt on her, but the guy was arrested and brought to court and put in jail for 6 years. So, sentenced to 6 years in jail. Okay, there's a picture of Susan. Remember, we're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants, men and women. Everybody in Europe, everybody in the US, everybody in Canada, everybody in Australia, everybody everywhere. We're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. Now, Emperor Lothair I, emperors had tremendous wealth, you know, kings and queens, and billionaires have tremendous wealth. And again, we're all going to live like kings and queens. We're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. This is Lothair I, emperor of the Romans. He was emperor, co-ruling with his father until 840, and governor of Bavaria and king of Italy and Middle Francia. His emperor of the Romans, 817 to 855. His predecessor was Louis the Pious. His successor was Louis II. This is a coin, a Carolingian denier of Lothair I. That's the coin in his honor. This is a very classic tale. He was involved in wars, you know, against their half-brothers and brothers. They were fighting each other. They were engaged in a 3-year civil war, and the struggles between these brothers led directly to the breakup of the Frankish Empire assembled by their grandfather Charlemagne. Charlemagne was a really great king and laid the foundation for the development of modern France and modern Germany. There is a picture of the Kingdom of Bavaria. This is a medallion portrait presumed to be of Lothair from the Binding Lothair Psalter in the British Library. Another coin called the denarius of Lothair. There's a 13th century stained glass depiction of Lothair at the Strasbourg Cathedral. So yeah, you know, this is a king, and every one of us, you know, kings had a lot of wealth, a lot of servants, and we're all going to live like kings and queens with robotic servants. I call it king and queen roboticism, and we're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. I call it billionaire roboticism. So let's do that, you know, and remember, everything in this video is public information. Most of it is public Creative Commons from Wikipedia. Every picture I showed, I either showed the public, the Creative Commons attribution. I showed the Creative Commons. Yeah, so everything, the Creative Commons attributions in every one of my pictures, or they're public pictures from newspapers. And most of the stuff is Wikipedia Creative Commons. Some of it is from my own personal memory. Now, this entire video, I released it to the public domain. The creator of this film, I made it public domain. It's publicly available for everyone. It's public knowledge, public, you know, it's public, it's public domain. And of course, you know, I ask, if you do use the pictures, please give the proper attributions that's what the Creative Commons license is, you know, give it, you know, like the little thing at the bottom, you know, who made the pictures on all the ones that are not public domain. You know, there's a little CC thing down there. So it's public domain, and yes, you know, I want every one of us to live like billionaires with robotic servants. If you could spread this out to everyone, make it I want to make it a very popular movement. You know, everyone is going to live like a billionaire. You know, everyone. You know, men, women, children. You know, seniors. You know, senior citizens. The homeless. All the homeless people in Europe, Australia, Canada, and the U.S. We're all going to live like billionaires. And I want to really spread this movement. We're going to create the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. And we're all going to live like billionaires in the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. Please look for future episodes. And the episodes, I want to talk about a billionaire in every one of these regions, and also a historical person of wealth, king or queen, or Native American chief, or First Nations chief, or an Aboriginal leader. And we're all going to live like billionaires with robotic servants. And united we're strong, divided we fall. Let's become one country, the European, American, Australian, Canadian Union. And again, I'm going to call it the We Like Women Pride Union. And I want to wish you guys a fantastic, super happy future, whoever watched this film. And please look out for future episodes. Have a super, super happy day.